good afternoon to everyone that's joined us for this session. My name's Sid Snitkin. I'm the moderator for this session this afternoon. And the focus of the session is going to be on managing project risks. We have several other sessions at this forum. We have one on supply chain risk. We have one on operational risks as too. But this one we're going to focus on project risk in particular. And what I want to do is just kick it off with kind of just trying to frame the discussions today. And so I'll give us a very brief presentation. I'll make it as brief as possible. Then following me will be Sandy Vassar from ExxonMobil, who's going to talk about risk, and particularly in control systems. Then there'll be a joint presentation made by Ray Topping and Jerry Gibson, who are from Fiatech and Dow, respectively. Well, Dow retired. And then following that, and so what I'm going to do is frame the issue, say what's the issue. They're going to kind of say this is what they're doing about what they see the issue to be. And then we'll have a panel discussion where you can all ask people what you can do about the issue, whatever, again, the issue is to you. And on that, we're going to be joined with Morven Houston from Bechtel, and not Paul Gillespie, Bill Stewart from Maverick Technologies. I apologize. Paul Gillespie couldn't make it. There was a matter came up that he had to deal with. So just to kick this off, the issue that I see is, and that we see at ARC is, the world's becoming a lot more risky, particularly for industrial organizations. We see lots of people with regulations, and even there's lots more regulations, but even more importantly, there's a lot of compliance issues today where CEOs can go to jail. So it's become a major, major issue. And these are proliferating, and the penalties are very, very stringent. And our clients, the organizations I talk to, everybody wants to know what can they do, what should they be doing, what kind of risks should they be managing, and things like that. So in the context of industrial organizations in particular, I use this little slide to say what's an industrial company. Industrial companies are a little different than others. They tend to have a variety of functions. I mean, you've got management. In the middle you might have some business infrastructure type services that service everyone. And around it you have product development. You may develop products or not. You have plant design and build. You have operations. You have supply chain. You have sales and marketing. And then, again, you have management. And each of these areas in industrial companies have lots of risks. I think we all know everything we do, there's risks involved. And so I kind of list the kinds of risks that are there. I don't want to sit and read all that because I'll take up the time for the real speakers. But the point is that each of those areas have risks that need to be managed. And what we tend to see is there's kind of like 5 different categories of risk management. On the right is project risk. Below on the bottom I have operational risk, supply chain risk management, enterprise risk management, and IT risk management. Now, when I say that, those tend to be the words that you hear, the names you hear. People will treat them as if they're different things. In reality, many of the things that they do are basically the same issue, which is risk management. It's just that there's different issues in different cases and different special practices and so on. Now, the one point I try to make with people all the time, because a lot of people I talk to are operational people, and they think of, well, risk management's like performance management. They're focused on managing the performance of a plant. And performance management, really you have certain goals which tend to be, ensuring consistent performance, optimizing your resources. You have certain goals, KPIs you measure yourself by, like efficiency or effectiveness or something like that. And the management strategy is people are constantly want feedback on what's going on so they can intervene when something goes wrong and deal with that. So it's kind of managing by exception and dealing and keeping things on course. And, the processes you see in that area are things like you plan the work, you execute the work, you have some kind of quality control, you have something to monitor performance, and then outside of that you have a loop for continuous improvement. If you look at risk management, it's really a different issue. In this case, the real goal is to avoid big problems. Now, big problems can be accidents. I don't mean to minimize accidents, but it's avoiding disruptions, avoiding problems. And they're not ones that are going to happen. There's ones that there's a risk that's going to happen. There's a likelihood that it might happen and has a certain consequence. And the kind of goal you want in many cases, particularly it depends on your process, and that is some kind of business continuity. You don't want an accident, for example, stopping a refinery or a chemical plant or a steel plant. I happen to come from the steel industry. The KPIs that you use to measure performance of risk are things like how many incidents did you have is a big measure. Many people do. And then the growing one is how well do you contain those risks when they happen? How well do you manage it after the fact? We just had a discussion of that in the cybersecurity session. And it's going to be a topic for our next year forum, actually. And the strategies that one uses to manage risks is really doing something with You have risk and incident management, but it's really identify and assess the risks. You identify the risks, you assess the impact of them, then you do something about managing them. You can, transfer the risk, you can avoid the risk, you can manage it with some kind of a strategy. And then you have to deal with compliance reporting and continuous improvement, things like that. Now, each of those things I mentioned on the right that are risk management strategies, they really are relevant to all of the topics I mentioned before. It's the same issues when you talk about project risk management, operational risk management, supply chain risk management, IT risk management, or enterprise risk management. And what we're going to be talking about is just the top session. So we have the two speakers that will be dealing with that. But when it comes to questions and answers, I would be happy if anybody wants to address any of those kinds of issues. So with that said, hopefully I only took about 5 minutes. I told people that would be all it would take. So with that said, I'd like to now ask Sandy Vassar from ExxonMobil to come to the stage.